Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are so excited to have Pavithri Kilgore with KPSK Consulting here this evening. She's a global partner of TTR Networking, but you are all here to hear her TTR presents HR Essentials for Solopreneurs and Small Businesses. And I know there's a little more to the title, and I'm going to let her to oh, it's right there in front of me. Business owners set the foundation for growth. And you know what? We have been waiting for 3 weeks or something for this. So I'm eager to hand it over to Pavithri. She's laughing at me. We are so glad you're here. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us. Take it away, Pavithri.
Thanks, Jennifer, and I will not make fun of you at all for still not remembering what the training is called.
In front of me, too, right in front of me. Take it away. That just tells it. Go ahead. You're
Um,
silly.
yeah, so real quick before we get started, please interrupt me, ask questions. Um, I can't see the Zoom screen at all, so if I don't see your hand go up or put a note in chat, Spencer's monitoring it, he'll get my attention, or you can just interrupt and yell. I respond to anything. So. All right, so real quick, hi Cassie, sorry, I didn't tell you this, but there's your picture. Um, so I am Pavithri Kilgore. I am the founder of KPSK Consulting, and we do comprehensive HR consulting across the US and US territories with an eye on the pesky government agencies and compliance. We may not be able to stop the government agencies from showing up at your doorstep, but we can sure as heck stop them from taking all your hard-earned money. Most of you know me, and if you don't, you will by the end of this presentation and learn that I'm incapable of taking life seriously, especially in this arena. Yep, no silly faces, people. We spend more time at work than we do with our families. So, you know what? If you can't enjoy what we do for a living, then you know what? You're doing the wrong thing. I've been lucky to have found a career I love for the last 25 years, and about 5 years ago, stepped away from the corporate world to start KPSK. And because I am confident that with a strong people strategy, we can help small businesses be successful and grow. And today I'm also excited that I get to introduce Cassie to this group. While she's new to all of you, definitely is not to me. I've had the pleasure of knowing Cassie for about a little over 3 years, Cassie, I think. I don't know, maybe. I'm sure it feels like a
Seems
heck
like
of
a
a lot
lifetime.
longer. I'm
Yeah, I was
sorry.
just gonna say you took the words out of my mouth. Seems like we've known each other forever, but I would say around 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say if you've known me for 5 minutes, sometimes it feels like a lifetime, so I do apologize for that. Um, but I know firsthand what she's capable of. So to know that she is now available not just to my current clients, but also for the future clients that are gonna be joining my team, I'm really excited for that because they're gonna be in really good hands. So today we have a bunch of slides, but honestly, not that jam-packed with words as much as information. And of course, I'm also going to have homework. And at the homework slide, Julia will drop that link in the chat for everybody so you can have your homework link. All right, we're going to talk about understanding HR fundamentals that every small business needs, how to stay compliant without having to hire full-time HR, because let's be honest, we're not cheap. Tools and templates to set up smart, scalable people practices. A 10-point checklist you can implement immediately. And then just because we're bored, we're going to talk about the 10 tips solopreneurs should follow when tackling HR. And then the 8 HR compliance challenges small businesses face. All right. So do you know when you are responsible for during the hiring process? Oh, wow, I can't see anybody's faces, so I have no idea if you have an answer or not. Got it. Um, do you know how many employees you need before you're responsible for different filings? Federally, you need 15. Each state has their own number. So what that means is you need to make sure you look at your state to know how many employees you need to have for the state to say you are now required to know what laws you have to be responsible for at a company level. So in Indiana, you'll hear me refer to Indiana a lot because most of the people on the call are from Indiana right now. That is 6. The 3 big numbers for small businesses to think about is 20, 50, and 100. 20 employees. I love this story because this is my definition of why. We have KPSK. One of my clients who was using their payroll system for the HR services did not know that they had to file their OSHA 300 after they had 20 employees. For each year that you don't file your OSHA 300 after you have 20 employees, it's a $10,000 fine per year. Well, long story short, it was 10 years before they realized, well, when I pointed it out to them, that they've been out of compliance and ended up with a $100,000 fine from OSHA. The best part is that the payroll company created an safety handbook for them, but didn't tell them anything about their OSHA compliance. So go figure. 50 employees is when a company is responsible for having FMLA as well as Affordable Care Act and providing health insurance. And at 100 employees, you are required to file your EEO1 reporting to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The top 3 mistakes that most small businesses make: misclassifying contractors, hiring without offer letters, no policies until there's a problem, and then HR is a business strategy. It is not just a back office task. Essentials you need to know: offer letters and I-9s. If you are doing I-9s and you have remote employees, so you're doing your verifications remotely, make sure that you are having E-Verify done. That is a requirement now to do remote verification of IDs. If you're using 1099 contractors, you need to make sure you got your W-9s. Employees versus contractor classifications, IRS 20-factor test or the ABC test, exempt versus non-exempt, salary thresholds, overtime rules, basic policies, anti-harassment, sick leave, meal, rest breaks, file storage rules, keeping I-9 separate, protecting health information. You don't need to be perfect. Just know when to raise your hand and ask questions. Google can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Don't let it be the downfall of your success, or most importantly, your business. Robust onboarding, training and development, performance and recognition, compliance and safety, communication and culture, technology and systems. These are things that you need to have a good people infrastructure in place. onboarding, job descriptions, helps attract the right fit people. It helps to guide expectations. Have one-page performance tools, roles, goals, check-ins. Employee handbook, just have a simple what is important now, and you can add on for your policies and procedures as the company grows. Your culture starts with you. It can be as simple as starting habits, shout outs, team meetings, clarity on values, making sure that you have good communication, adhering to compliance and safety rules depending on the industry you're in. Technology and systems. This is something that I am very, very, very adamant, especially on a couple of topics. Payroll. Listen, I do law because I suck at math. Sometimes I need a calculator to do 1 plus 1. If you are not using a proper payroll system, there's so many areas that you would hit landmines, and you want to make sure that you've got somebody else that is going to own that liability for you. What I mean by that is you're going to have to worry about federal, state, and local income taxes you have to pay, that you're withholding properly, that you register for the right unemployment, and depending on what state you're in, there are other disability, paid leaves, um, workers' comp regulations that you are responsible for that a payroll company can help you do. And 99.9% of the time, the more established large payroll companies will have those things in place for you. And it's part of the agreements that they have. So they will make sure that if they mess up, they'll own it and fix it. You're not responsible for it. And long story short, we have actually one of our members on TTR who, through one of the payroll companies, unfortunately, the payroll company was taking all of the taxes out, but was not filing it with the IRS. And she was getting all of the fines and issues with the company. I mean, hitting the company. And she ended up having to hire attorneys to fight the IRS to go back to the payroll company to get them to not only pay the back taxes, but also pay the fines and all of the penalties that went along with it. Those numbers add up really quick. So you want to make sure you are using the right payroll company that is right for your business and with what you are looking for. A HRIS system that keeps track of all of your employee handbooks, paperwork, new hire paperwork, onboarding documents, and making sure that it is following the data retention requirements. Compliance posters. Listen, as soon as you register your business and you sign up for unemployment, every company on the earth is going to be sending you emails and letters saying, hey, we can provide you with this really cool, pretty posters you can hang up in your break room, and they're going to cost you $59 every year, and we'll update it. Well, guess what? They are free from the federal labor boards and the state labor boards. You don't have to pay for it. There is no requirement for it to be this nice, pretty, ginormous laminated poster. You can print it in an 8.5 by 11 and stick it on your wall. It is just as legal as a nice, pretty, giant poster. And then sometimes outsourcing works, right? HR consultants like me, who is gonna be I'll say part-time for lack of better terms, or a fractional, or using benefits brokers, make sure that you start small and add the technology as your company grow. There's a lot of times where there is this misnomer that you have to have everything all at once, and you don't. You can get what you need now, but if you have the right system in place, almost all of them can be add-ons as you grow that will grow with your business. So knowing what that is and where you get it is just as important as knowing what you don't need to spend money on. Does that make sense?
Obviously, that makes great sense. Can you go back to that slide you were just on, actually?
Yep.
So jumping off the page here, to me, compliance and safety and, the technology you were talking about, of all of these that seem to be, those two seem to be the most important. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but what I see a lot of is the lack of technology you were talking about, specifically around payroll. How often are you seeing that kind of DIY'd, I guess you could say, versus using one of these payroll companies that you said that do have offerings for even smaller companies?
So what's your definition of DIY?
I don't want to say Excel sheets, but I mean anything that is just not the use of one of these actual payroll companies.
A lot, to be honest. Unfortunately, that tends to be the norm with most smaller businesses than I care to admit. Excel sheets for payroll is really not that uncommon.
I had an inkling that was the case, but I thought I'd ask somebody who talks to them probably a lot more than I do. So
Yeah. I will say once you hit about 10 employees is when you get the oh crap mark, right? And people want to hire payroll systems. I mean, I think you guys may have heard this story from last year where I had a client who had 5 companies with multiple employees in each of the companies, but in his infinite wisdom, decided he's going to pay all 5 company employees through one company. And yeah, so if one company got sued for anything related to employment law, all of the dominoes were going to fall because he was piercing the corporate veil in every which direction. So it's it's not even as simple as do you have the right systems in place? It's not just is it the right system in place, but is it the right structure in place? Does that help, Will?
yes, I cannot imagine the kind of cleanup you had to do on that particular case, but yes, that helps.
Um, I believe to quote Spencer, it was a case of, hey, your client hasn't called you. It's 9:30. Does he know what to wear to work today? Yeah, because I was on the phone a lot.
And that's why we all need a Spencer.
Okay, he is on the call. Let's not give him my big head. Thanks, Will. He said too late in the background. All right. Any other questions on this? Yet? All right. All right. So moving real quick to the 10-point checklist. Job description for all roles. I don't care how small you think that role is. Please, please, please make sure that you have a job description for every single one of them. Offer letter for every hire. I get asked quite a bit as to why. Well, the truth is, It's a really good way to make sure that there are no miscommunications. They know, what are you hired for? How many hours? What's my salary? What's my schedule? It is all outlined on the front end where you don't need to worry about the who, what, when, where, and why. Set up a compliant payroll system. I think we kind of beat that dead horse to a ground already. Classify workers correctly, right? W-2 versus 1099. If you haven't attended my W-2 or 1099 webinar, let me know. I'll be happy to send that your way as well. Post the required labor law posters. By the way, if your team is entirely remote, you are still legally required to provide those posters. It just needs to be emailed to them. So if you don't have a physical location and you have employees, you need to make sure that you are providing it to them via email. Draft basic workplace policies. It doesn't have to be anything too strenuous. Have the basics in place. Make sure that they understand what your expectations are. Keep employee records secure and organized. Develop a simple onboarding checklist. Now, I know we talked about that robust onboarding process, but this is for yourself. Have a checklist so that every single individual that you bring on board goes through the exact same list every single time. Consistency is the key to making sure that you don't get yourself caught up in any form of disparage treatment situations. Schedule regular team check-ins as a group and as one-on-ones. You want to make sure that you are constantly keeping a pulse on your team as a whole, but then also checking in with your employees on a regular cadence. So if there are issues that needs to be brought up, even if they don't make the time to connect with you, they know that something's coming up where they had that opportunity to talk to you. And then document expectations and feedback. So anytime you are having one-on-one conversations, it's important that you follow up with an email, and especially if there's disciplinary action, and making sure that you keep a track record of those feedback and expectation conversations. Tanya, do me a favor at the end, once the link is done, you'll be able to let me know what you need, and then I can get that information to you. So that way I can make sure I don't forget. All right. Any questions on the checklist before we jump into the solopreneurs should follow?
I know I'm not allowed to speak today, but
I did not say you're not allowed to speak. Yes, Lisa.
So because I jumped in late, just in case anybody else did, I am 99% sure, but just verify for me, this checklist only applies to employees, not 1099 W9 people.
This is a HR checklist regardless to make sure that you are on the right track. So what I mean by that is if you have 1099s, you need to make sure that number 4 is done, right? Making sure you classified correctly. And if your classifications are correct that they are 1099, you can ignore the other 9.
Perfect. Thank you.
If they are W-2s, then you got to make sure the other 9 are done.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that. I just also wanted that said in case somebody joined late and they didn't know that.
Hey, listen, there's 10 more slides of things you should and shouldn't do.
Okay.
Yes, Alana.
I was just going to add, and you know this about me, that I only have 1099 contracted
Yep.
contractors,
Mm-hmm.
and I do most of that list anyway. Like the labor law posters don't apply to me, but expectations and feedback come with my subcontractor contracts and state SOWs, regularly checking in with my subcontract. Like all of that still applies, I think. So I just wanted to speak up for it. No, it actually is a list that you, even with just contractors, need to still stay on top of. Now, I don't have a workplace policy yet, but like the procedures of how I want my subcontractor to do a project is outlined in the SOW. So when I make a handbook, I can almost cut, copy and paste to what it needs to be when I'm outlining like job descriptions and stuff. So I just wanted to speak up for that. No, do not have any employees. This process frankly scares the crap out of me, but right now I am doing most of this list for the contractors I have.
But I'll also take a back step and say that is also very specific to the industry you're in. Alana does music therapy for children. So there's a
for everybody. It's for everybody.
Well, yeah, but you're working mainly with school districts and working with under 18. So there is a crap ton of that regulation you have to make sure your subcontractors are following. So you unfortunately can't help it but be having to have some of that already in place, regardless of the licensing that they're on.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry. I wanted to make sure that they knew why you had to have some of these things in place, because your situation is somewhat unique to most companies that have 1099s.
Gotcha.
Anybody else?
All right, I'm going to speak up just to address that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand her situation is different. I also understand that there are some policies for most general business 1099s that we don't give them handbooks. We don't. No. Absolutely not. And so that's why so just so that it's clear, my comment was from that approach, is that we don't give them comments or, handbooks, because they are independent contractors. They're no different, kind of. It's like then you go into McDonald's and buying a hamburger. You can't tell McDonald's how to make their hamburger,
I mean,
and leave the onions off or whatever. So.
Yeah. So many things I can say to that, Lisa, but I won't, about McDonald's making hamburgers, but I'm going to keep going.
I didn't say I was going to eat it. I just said it was an example.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I love people I work with. Anything else? Anybody else, rather? All right, so let's go with solopreneurs first, and then we'll jump into the employee section. All right. Make sure you are adhering to the laws. It's tempting to take shortcuts. Just don't do it. Understand the impact of noncompliance. Get familiar with the basics. Making sure that you understand the basics when dealing with anything HR is really pretty key to the success of your business. When in doubt, ask. Know the business. If you choose to outsource work to contractors to help balance the workload, you need to make sure that the contractors are truly skilled to represent you and your business. That means making sure that they are qualified for the position that you are hiring them to do for that specific project. Develop a customer-centric HR approach. So use the customer experience vision as the pillar for all departments. An HR example would be incorporating the customer journey into the onboarding and training of all employees, right? So if you are going to look at how you run your business, mirror that to see how do you want your business represented within your company to your client's company. Where you find that synergy and where you can fill that gap is where you're going to add value to the client, where your business is going to be elevated into your client as referral partners. Create a cooperative. All right, let's be honest. HR has a PR problem. We tend to be the no police. From a HR standpoint, following best practices is non-negotiable. Why having someone to help guide you in the right direction is invaluable. And I say this all the time, is for an HR professional to say no to you should really be the exception to the rule, because if you know what you are doing as an HR professional, you should be able to help guide your client to be able to get where they want to go compliantly and legally and appropriately without having to say no. Because there's always a way to do it. It's a matter of, are you going to take a shortcut and cut all the corners and get your client in trouble? Or are you going to find the right way to get your client to success without getting them in trouble? Stay true to purpose. Keep your why in the front of your mind. Refocus and re-energize in continuous improvement, added value for customers, and meaningful market impact. Authenticity. Anyone who knows me know I say this all the time. What you see is what you get with me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, trust me. And that's okay, because if you and I don't mesh, I know the door I walked in through, I have zero issues walking back out. But be who you are and be true to yourself, because that shows up in your business day in and day out. Build a lasting DNA. You're the author of your culture. Write the script of the values you would expect the future of your organization to follow. Don't cut corners where it counts. When you work by yourself and for yourself, it's easy to start looking at cutting corners to save time and cost. Unfortunately, cutting the wrong corners means you'll find yourself in more trouble than you care to find yourself in, sometimes more expensive than you care to imagine. Be nimble and learn to prioritize, or to quote Lisa, learn how to delegate. No one can do it all. Learn to prioritize. Solopreneurs have to be able to flex. What's important today may be different from tomorrow. So know what you have to do, be willing to change, and consider a professional, right? Humility is a great strength of any entrepreneur. I say this all the time, is if you ever wanted to know where your weaknesses are, or if you question your self-confidence, go start a business. There is nothing like becoming an entrepreneur that'll make you question every life decision you've ever made in life. There's a myriad of laws and around employment that most people don't know, and nor are you expected to know. Hire a professional. That's right for the business, right for your business, right? Um, Promise, this is not a plug for myself, because trust me, I'm not right for everyone out there, but there is some form of help that's right for every small business or solopreneur. Find that right fit so you can protect your greatest investment. That's the best advice I can give any solopreneur is when you are getting started, it is so important to make sure that you have the right village around you that can complement you so that your business can grow. Because at the end of the day, that's who's going to take you forward. It's not about everything that you know, it's about who you know that knows what you need to know. And just make sure those people are who you want around you. Because, like I said, not everybody's going to be right for you. All right. Any questions around the solopreneur piece? Because I know we have a lot of solopreneurs on the call. Very hard to do when you're in a new market. But that's also a good opportunity to connect with like organizations. So a lot of times you may be able to get in with professional organizations within your industry that may be able to share some of those resources that are available outside of the market you're in. That may be a good resource for you. Um, that's a good point, Lisa. The leading edge masterminding group is a good place to build resources and have a accountability masterminding opportunities for anybody that wants to be. Thanks, Lisa. Um, but you're right. It's not always easy to have them in your backyard, but this is where Google can actually be a good friend, is when you don't have those in your new market or right around where you want them to be, you can find organizations that may not be right there with you, but you can find online to say, hey, who do you use? Where do I go? And when in doubt, reach out to somebody and say, who did you use? What did you do? Anybody else have any other thoughts, ideas, best practices they use? Again, I know there's a bunch of solopreneurs on this call, very few with employees. So,
Well, not to plug networking, but that's exactly what you need to do. When you get involved in a good networking group, you build those resources. I'm not an expert at everything, especially HR related, but I have in my back pocket the name and address of who, email address of who to contact. And so this is not to plug networking, but this is a time when I would plug networking.
anyone else? Melissa, I'm going to call on you for a second because I know you do a lot around compliance, right? If that's okay.
I do.
Anything to add?
Gosh.
I'm
Way to
sorry.
put me on the spot. Thank you, Pavithri. I love it. Yeah, I do deal with a lot of compliance, and it's one-on-one with franchise owners, franchisees. So it's about actually, and I kind of work with networking each one of them. So kind of to tag on Lisa with what she was saying about networking, I'm constantly putting owners together, back and forth for them to follow compliance, et cetera. And by the way, I also tell them frequently that they need someone like Pavithri to help them, because typically business owners do not know anything about HR. So and what they should be doing. So I don't know that I just helped answer your question at all, but yes, I do work a lot with compliance and trying to guide people in the right direction.
Actually, yeah, no, that reminds me. Melissa meet Lisa, Lisa meet Melissa. I think we need to have a conversation and do a training on leading edge. That's a different conversation for another day. Sorry. Side note.
Awesome.
Sometimes my brain works.
I'm with
All
you
right.
there. Same here.
Any other questions around the solopreneurs before I jump real quick into quick 8 tips around small businesses? Nope. Okay. Miss Jones, what kind of business do you have? I'm not sure I know who you are. Mm-hmm. Yep. Got it. You do drug and alcohol testing, that's right. Okay. Jumping into the last few slides. There is a lot of words on these slides, so I'm just gonna cover the highlights. So, oh God. We're gonna stop sharing for 5 seconds. Because I don't even want to know what Lisa put in here that made Spencer just laugh. Oh. The challenges for the small businesses. If you have employees, let's be honest, the world of employment law, for lack of better terms, sucks. And unfortunately, there is really no getting around it. So why? Because every time you think something's set in stone or is about to move forward, well, guess what? Somebody decides to go change things. Was it on Monday, I think? We were on a call and um Jennifer goes, Pavithri, your head just turned into a little blob. And it was literally me banging my head against the desk. Why? Because as soon as I think something is set in stone, well, some court decides somewhere that we are going to change things again, because that's what we do for a living. I think if you were on this call, on one of my training calls in November, I had just finished a training. And next thing I know, the next day, the court went ahead and changed what the requirements were. So, can you guys see my screen again? I'm sorry. Yes, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. So, regulations imposed on small businesses. Once you hire employees, you have to make sure that you stay on top of the ever-changing laws. Not only do you have to keep your finger on the pulse of the federal agency requirements, but you also have to track changes at the state and local levels, although there's HR compliance challenges you can face. You also have to identify the primary evolving employment and HR compliance regulations you'll need to monitor, right? So, discrimination on job applications, previous convictions, salary history, age, birthday, graduation, citizenship, pregnancy, children, or marital status, religious holidays, alcohol or tobacco usage, disabilities, all things that companies tend to put on applications that can get you sued for discrimination. I was at a SCORE event and I was explaining how a company literally had a discrimination case filed with the EEOC for no reason other than the person interviewing made a comment about the individual's engagement ring. And they didn't get the job and they filed a claim saying that they were not given the job because they were getting married and they were going to have children. Now, that was some years back, but still, it doesn't take a lot for people to misinterpret simple commentary. So, protecting staff from workplace harassment, adapt and enforce anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policies, develop a reporting system, and then teach your employees to promote a fair civil and harassment-free work environment. I don't know how else to put this. Teach people to be nice. Rocket science, I know. Classifying workers correctly. Behavioral control, right? If you have the right to control your workers' behavior, they're an employee. Financial control, if you pay the person per project and don't reimburse them for job-related expenses, contractor. Excuse me. Types of relationship, if it is indefinite or offer benefits, they're an employee. Paying employees at least minimum wage. Current federal minimum wage is $7.25. You need to make sure that you check what your state is because you are required to pay the greater of the two. Knowing when to pay overtime. There are myriads of overtime pay laws. If they're paid on a salary basis, you have to make sure that they make at least $35,568 a year and that they perform exempt job duties. Everybody else will need to be paid time and a half for their hourly rate for every 40 hours of worked hours in a single work week. As with most employment regulations, federal law is not the only law you must consider. Most states have their own overtime rules. So again, depending on the state you're in, make sure you are following that. Understanding medical coverage requirements. Tax penalty for not having health insurance was eliminated at the beginning of 2019. However, ACA with 50 or more employees or equivalent of have to provide health insurance. A full-time equivalent is anyone who works an average of 30 hours or more. When you get close to 50 team members, start going through your options. Offering paid sick and parental leave. Again, federal law does not mandate paid time off, but there are a lot of different states that do have paid law leave. So make sure you're paying attention to that. FMLA, if you have more than 50 employees, you have to provide employees up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave. They had to have worked at least 1250 hours during the 12 months prior. And then preparing for retirement. I'm not going to go into a lot on this because there's few states that have mandated legislation around who has to provide retirement options. And in order to make sure that you have, if you're in one of these states, just make sure that you have it covered, or you want to set up some time to chat about it. Let's do that. So I want to make sure you have the information you need. Um, any questions so far? Good. Right. Julia, can you drop that link? Cool. So if you would like, I do have a HR toolkit that I can send you guys, as well as this presentation or any other training that we talked about, like the 1099 one. If you could, you can go on that link and let me know what you need, how you need it. Be more than happy to get that to you. Also, if you have employees or don't have employees and would like to do a HR audit, that is also available through that link. You can request it and I can set it up. That is a service that is being provided by the company. So all that information is in the link. So once you get in there, let me know what questions you have. That is your homework. I promise it's clearly not a lot of homework. It's only if you want the information. And here's how you can get a hold of me if you need to. Talk to me later. But oh my God, Jennifer, I actually finished at 8 o'clock. How'd that happen? That never happens.
I don't know. Does anybody have questions? I don't see anything in the. Did you already ask? You asked, didn't you?
I know, but I'm shocked that I actually stopped talking. Thanks, Dad. Anybody have any questions? Hey, Ted, be nice. You've been nice this whole hour, and now you start?
It's hard being that quiet.
I know.
It's just proof we both can do it.
So
No.
Pavithri, this is a TTR present, so I do want to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I don't want to talk over if somebody has a question. We're going to upload this to, and I mean, yeah, so just remind me again, Pavithri, I'll definitely send it to you, but also
Yeah.
somebody that signed up. I usually do that with the TTR.
Yeah, but unfortunately, because it went through my network as well, not everybody signed up through TTR. So if you want to send it to me, I can share it to you as well. So anybody that wants it can sign up on the link, Jennifer, and then I can send that to you, and that way you can share it with them.
Okay, just as long as you clear that up when it goes down to do it.
I got you.
I'm sitting here thinking, what am I doing? Okay, no, thank you. Great.
I will send you the email list and you'll be able to
Gotcha.
send it to everybody.
That's what you mean. Okay, very good. Very, very
Yes.
good. Everyone being on. Actually, this is part of one of the things that our global partners do. And I know this is great information. I do know I'm not sure if Gina made it on, but Gina.
She did.
Good. Okay, good. So yeah, I don't think we had too many hiccups on that end of it. So thank you, Pavithri, for another great informative, very informative, because I'm sitting here thinking, oh no, as I always do. But yeah, there's nothing I'm doing that is but it's good to have you around for sure. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure I know what to make out of that one, but okay.
Thank you, Spencer. Spencer Given. Yeah, we appreciate you very much. And I would just encourage people to check out TTR Networking. It is actually To the Rescue IN written out, all written out, no numbers or anything, To the Rescue IN.com. And I've got to plug that while we're talking, because this event, as well as a number of other events we have, and a lot of them I realize not everybody on here is local. So if you cannot attend, we do have events on Zoom, and we have groups that meet on Zoom, and be very happy to have you join us if that would be the case. But thank you very much. Thank you, Pavithri. Great job. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay. And I think I'm going to save the chat as well. Is that okay with everybody if I make
Yeah.
that connection as well? I don't know if some of those things about like you jump on late and some of the stuff might be here that you might.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's really anything other than the link on here, so.
Okay. Well, if you want anything, please let me know. On you all, yeah. Just thanking you again, Pavithri, very much. So they'll look forward to getting, however we get it to them, they're gonna get it.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You ending the recording?
Yeah, I will close. Yeah. Right now, I think. Yeah.